Ondo is becoming one of the biggest blue chip players around the tokenization space in this market. And most of the retail sector is actually completely unaware of what's been happening with Ondo. And I do think that by the end of this video, if you do hold Ondo, or even if you don't, you will be extremely bullish on this project. So welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. So I have been addressing tokenization for a while, since going all the way back to 2021. And the reason for that being is because even back then, we did get predictions around how big tokenization could be. The biggest one during that time was actually from the World Economic Forum, where they did say, I think it was $867 trillion could be disrupted by blockchain technology. And the big word back then was still tokenization, but they didn't really utilize it the way that it's being utilized now, where it's out in the open and everyone can really kind of research it and understand what tokenization actually means. But, that's what really kind of started to, I would say, open my eyes to just how big tokenization will be, but also how big this entire market will be. But the main thing that I think everyone should be looking at is the underlying infrastructure players that are enabling the tokenization of pretty much everything of value. And Ondo is one that continues to shine because of not only all of the market engagement from Ondo, but because of all of the big moves that Ondo has been making silently over the last couple months. But let's actually start off with this prediction from Ondo themselves saying, could the tokenized RWA market reach $100 billion in 2025? We think so. In an interview with Scott Melker, the Street Roundtable, Nathan Allman, which is, of course, the founder of Ondo, projected that the tokenized RWA market could do just that. Ondo's recent growth to $1 billion in TVL reflects that momentum, as traditional institutions like BlackRock and Franklin Templeton see similar traction. Nathan noted that by bringing these assets on chain, we could tap into the transparency and composability of DeFi as a more fair, accessible, and efficient financial system. Now, building upon this statement here, I do have a video clip actually from this podcast that I will play. But first, I actually want to talk about the value of the RWA market. So the total value on chain of RWAs is about almost $1 billion. It's 20.88 billion. Now that's the entire market. If we're actually looking at specific things like stablecoins, for an example, make up like 226.6 billion, which is crazy because again, it's showing us the complete difference between, total RWA on chain versus stablecoins, which is telling us that this is just the starting point. Like this is barely anything compared to the markets in which tokenization will touch. But if we actually look at like treasuries make up about 5.75 billion, global bonds about roughly 150 million, private credit is about 12.74 billion in terms of the actual active loans. The total loans value did hit about 23.4 billion. And then commodities, 1.39 billion, institutional funds, about almost $500 million. And then we do also have stocks, which is around almost $500 million as well. But again, if we think about where we're at right now versus like this $100 billion target, then we could very well almost 5x from here, which would be extremely significant. And I do wonder where a lot of that value will come from and what networks will actually benefit the most. Now, as we actually look at the RWA league table here, you might notice something, which is, where's Ondo at? Well, Ondo is actually not under this table. Ondo is under the tokenized treasuries tab, which we'll get to here in a second. But first, I want to put a spotlight on what Ben Grossman did put out recently on X, which was Ondo is driving tokenization adoption, and it's not even close. This is why I think that everyone should pay attention to what Ondo is doing. Ondo's RWAs are the most widely adopted, representing 85% of all asset holders in the category, nearly 6 times more than all others combined. And yeah, this is true. When we think about tokenized treasuries, here you can actually see where Ondo does rank number 2 under securitized at about almost $1 billion in market cap. But the main thing here is looking at holders. So there's about 17,661 holders across the board. This includes all of these top entities, which also does include Securitize, which does have BlackRock's build fund under it, and also does include Franklin Templeton. But what's crazy about this is Ondo makes up well over 15,000 plus holders between their two treasuries, which is the Ondo US dollar yield and then the Ondo short-term US government bond fund. Now, this one only has about 58 holders. This one, on the other hand, has 15,033 holders, which is just insane compared to the fact that there's only 17,661 holders across all of these 39 assets. But the fact that we've been witnessing a lot of growth between these two is very exciting. Like, for an example, the holders in the last 30 days is up about 5.21%. You might not think that that's a big deal, but it is still pretty significant across the board, considering the fact that the growth in the last 7 days actually dropped off by 0.28% for all of the tokenized treasuries market. So Ondo is absolutely crushing right now. And I do suspect that there's going to be a lot more growth around these products this year, especially considering the fact that Ondo just continues to make a lot of noise and expand rapidly. Now let's go back to this post, because I do have the video clip alongside here where we do have Wall Street is warming up to tokenization amid a regulatory shift. Wall Street is ready for tokenization. A lot of people think that Wall Street is going to be shocked by tokenization or shocked by crypto. But I think that that's extremely far from the truth. I think that, Wall Street is already tapped in with some big players here. Ondo is one that has a lot of big Wall Street giants already tied to it. But we have here, there's certainly been a sea change in institutional interest, and this is actually coming from Nathan himself. And he pointed to new OCC guidance and the repeal of SAB 121 as major breakthroughs, reigniting conversations about banks custodian tokenized securities or custodian tokenized securities. As TradFi warms to public blockchains, Ondo is building the rails to provide global investors with on-chain exposure to anything they can buy at a conventional brokerage account through Ondo Global Markets. Check this out.
Yeah, so our platform, Ondo Global Markets, which will launch this year, will let investors gain on-chain exposure to anything that they could buy at a conventional brokerage account, like a Robinhood or in Interactive Brokers. Yeah, so our platform, Ondo Global Markets.
So yeah, I mean, listen, when we think about what Ondo is really kind of doing here, they are taking a completely different approach. They are looking at the institutional interest and they are targeting it in a big, big way. This is why when we think about Ondo with Wall Street 2.0, I do think that they're going to be very, very successful in that sense because of, who their target audience actually is. But on top of that, we also know over here, tokenization is a hot topic at the NYSE. The appetite for tokenization right now is very high because people look at the product market fit of say for so stablecoins and say, what's next? Now, this is Ondo's Ian Debode explaining, I expect a lot of crypto exchanges to offer stocks and this is this year. So basically he's saying this year, he's expecting a lot of crypto exchanges to actually offer stocks. Ondo Global Markets is leading that charge, bringing stocks and ETFs on chain and accelerating the shift towards an accessible financial system. And by the way, this is live from the New York Stock Exchange. This is crazy, but it shows you just how big the spotlight is around Ondo from the institutional side. Check it out.
The appetite for tokenization right now is very, very high, particularly because people look at that product market fit and say, what's next? So we're working with quite a few of the large TradFis, asset managers and the like to help them put some assets on chain and really make it available to a global audience.
So yeah, I mean, listen, when we think about what this is going to do for stocks, for, ETFs, for pretty much anything, if you will, this is going to grow these markets significantly. But again, Ondo is a big enabler of this. And the fact that Wall Street is actively engaging at this pace, it's not just, these discussions happening at the New York Stock Exchange or, hearing it from Ondo themselves. It's already happening, right? You have players like the DTCC that are actively engaged around the space. This is an announcement going back to just recently where the DTCC actually announced new platform for tokenized collateral management. But on top of that, there was also an announcement back in February, which was Wall Street is betting on $30 trillion of RWA tokenization market prospects. Wall Street giants are betting on the projected $30 trillion RWA tokenization market as the industry sees explosive growth and widespread adoption across TradFi institutions. Like I said, Wall Street is here. Wall Street is ready, and they're actively engaging with some of the biggest names in this space. We have here that real-world asset tokenization was one of the top crypto narratives in 2024. Almost every tokenized asset class saw remarkable growth throughout the year, with tokenized treasuries surging by 179% and private credit by 40%. The overall market cap of these assets also increased 32%, growing even faster than the overall crypto market. Global investment giant Van Eck forecasts that the RWA market will surpass 50 billion by the end of this year, so there's a clear momentum behind this emerging trend. Now, again, here we have where the big players, Wall Street giants, double down on tokenization. Financial leaders like JP Morgan, UBS, BlackRock, Citi, and Goldman Sachs are moving beyond theoretical interest to full-scale implementation of blockchain technology. Their efforts are fundamentally changing how real-world assets are managed, traded, accessed, and also used across different industries and regions. Tokenized treasuries alone saw explosive growth in 2024, rising from 769 million at the start of the year to over 2.2 billion by September. And even right now, tokenized treasuries, as you guys can see, are at 5.75 billion. This is actually up 15% in the last 7 days. But we have just 3 years ago, the crypto industry had tokenized less than $2 billion worth of RWAs. But today, the market has reached 16.82 billion. Again, we go back over here and we go to the market overview, 20.88 billion. So again, the growth is still continuing to this day. A January report from Fidelity reinforces this outlook, calling tokenization the killer app for 2025. Again, every single big player out there around Wall Street is now actively talking about and engaging with tokenization in a huge way. This is why I keep telling you guys, you want to focus on the networks and the names tied back to the RWA space in a huge way that continue to make a lot of noise and continue to see major adoption. Ondo shining among all of them with massive amounts of holders, massive amounts of growth, and just the connections back to Ondo are also very, very significant. And also don't forget that Wall Street is ready to actively engage with blockchain tech in a big way to enable 24/7 trading, because even back in, I believe this was, March. So back in March, NASDAQ did announce that they are moving to 24/5 trading. Now, this isn't going to be happening until I think 2026, they said. But legacy markets are slowly realizing what crypto figured out years ago. Markets don't sleep, and neither should opportunity. Now, just 2 more days to go. And yeah, I mean, this is a huge, huge announcement. And this is something that we really kind of look at becoming a reality. But this is 24/5. Imagine 24/7, which I do think that that's also on its way. Remember what Vlad Tenev from Robinhood did say. Tokenization is a technological step change improvement over our current stock markets. The world is tokenizing, and the United States should not get left behind. And this was his full statement back in January regarding this. And he was talking about tokenization, specifically talking about how it could affect Wall Street, how it could affect the stock market. We also know that Vlad has been very, very vocal regarding tokenization for a while. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and scroll through his entire Twitter feed, but if you guys do look up Vlad Tenev tokenization, I'm sure that you can find a lot of his posts regarding how bullish he is on tokenization. Robinhood themselves have been pretty bullish on crypto. Now, do I, support Robinhood in a huge way? Not exactly, ever since like the AMC GameStop stuff, but it is still something to really kind of focus on. But also, it's not just Wall Street that's ready. Even the largest financial networks out there, like Swift, have been actively participating within the tokenization space, even going back to November of 2024, for an example. Swift, UBS, Asset Management, and Chainlink successfully complete innovative pilot to bridge tokenized assets with existing payment systems. So again, the market for tokenization itself is starting to open up in a big, big way. And it really is spearheaded by, the largest institutional players, asset management companies, and it's just continuing to accelerate. This is why I focus on, the analytics. I study these analytics. I look at the networks here. I look at, what networks are seeing a lot of the success. What players here are, being, some of the largest players around tokenized treasuries, for an example, because I think that the tokenized treasury side of these markets should 100% be focused on. And we could see that Ondo is absolutely killing the game. In terms of like the networks, I think everyone should also pay attention to this as well. Specifically, look at the last 30-day growth across the board for the RWA side of things, because this is showing us the total value gained over the last 30 days. Obviously, Solana's killing it, but it just goes to show you that it's still continuing, right? Like, it's not just, oh, tokenization is a big deal, last week. No, it's a big deal, and it has been a big deal for the last couple years, and it just continues to grow and grow and grow. Like, back in 2022, for an example, a lot of people were starting to talk about tokenization in a big way. And back in 2022, we had a market cap in terms of like total RWA on chain about $2 billion. Today, it's almost $21 billion. And it just shows you how quick this market is catching up to what, some of these markets out there are valued at. We're still very early on compared to like the global real estate market or stocks and, equities and things like that. But I do think that this is a great beginning side of the tokenization revolution, and players like Ondo definitely are, a blue chip around this as they continue to advance and push forward and connect with some of the biggest players out there to really kind of become, a huge player within the Wall Street 2.0 shift, but also the tokenization revolution itself. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely will like, subscribe, to notifications on, because I'm free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.